So, I'm 18. It's my first presidential election. I'm in college in Houston, Texas at Rice University. And like all college students, I have an option. I can register to vote in my home state, or I can register to vote in the state in which I'm getting my higher education. So, again, 1992, it is George Bush Sr., his attempt at a second term, versus Bill Clinton. So I had gone to see Bill Clinton. I ditched calculus to go watch Bill Clinton. He was my guy. Plus, George Bush was obviously the worst thing that the Bush family could throw at this country. So I figured this was pretty obviously, I knew who I was going to vote for. And I wanted my vote to count. And in Texas, my vote wasn't going to count because that was George Bush country. But in New Mexico is a swing state. And most people don't know that because nobody cares. It's really worrisome how much that got a laugh. But we care a lot about our 3 electoral votes. We've always been a swing state, as long as I can remember, and we apparently always will be. So my vote was really going to count. So I registered to vote, and I put in my request for my absentee ballot in plenty of time, and I waited. And pretty soon my parents and I are on the phone every day, panicking. It's Halloween has passed, the ballot is not here. What are we gonna do? It's critical to me that I participate in a democracy as an adult for the first time. And it's critical to my parents because they obviously raised me to be the sort of person who cared about participating in a democracy as an adult for the first time. And the ballot just isn't arriving, and we're thinking, okay, well, we'll just second day air it. That's not gonna work. We'll just FedEx overnight it. That's not gonna work. The ballot arrives on the day of the election. So I'm on the phone with my parents in a full-on panic because obviously there is no way to get something from Houston to Albuquerque in the same day, right? And my dad has this moment just of brilliance, and he says, oh my gosh, airplanes. And I was like, yes, and he said, because they carry cargo. He said, so all you have to do is like pack the ballot up in something that will count as cargo, and then you just send it in the plane. I was like, that is a great idea. And then we realized airplanes also carry people. And people can carry the ballot, right? So my parents and I were just beside ourselves. They're gonna get off the phone and they're gonna go ahead and make a reservation for me to fly from Houston to Albuquerque to drop off my ballot and come back. And they were gonna get off the phone and they were gonna call Southwest because it was 1992 and we didn't have any internet at my college and we didn't have any internet at my parents' house. And were there any internet anywhere, Southwest would not have a homepage. So this was really the only way to achieve it. So they're about to get off the phone and do that when all of a sudden we have another brainstorm. Technically, Kelley doesn't have to travel from Houston to Albuquerque. The ballot has to travel from Houston to Albuquerque, and anyone on that plane can carry that ballot. So remember, this is 1992. So like anything goes on a plane. It's like 9 years before September 11th. You could go through, there was no security essentially. You could carry anything you wanted, short of maybe like a grenade launcher. I'm pretty sure a grenade launcher, the only reason for like not including that was like overhead bin space. Plus you could go straight up to the gate. You didn't have to have a reason or anything. You could just head on up there and hassle any passenger you wanted to hassle. So we had a plan. So my parents looked in the little pamphlet. Do you remember the little flight schedule? It's about yay big. You would always get a new one every time you go to the airport, so you'd have the most up-to-date flight information. So cute. And so they searched in there and they were like, yes, there is one last flight getting from Houston to Albuquerque before the polls close. And if you can get to Houston Hobby Airport in an hour, you've made it. I was like, yes. So we get off the phone and I fill out the ballot. And all I have to do is find somebody with a car who is sober and wearing their clothes. So it took a while. I finally found somebody, Kevin Hudenko, also an Albuquerquean, up for anything, put me in his car, we drive to Houston Hobby, or we try. We get on the freeway and traffic at 1:30 on a Tuesday. That's never happened before, but it happened today. So we're sweating bullets. We finally get to the airport and we're running a little late. He circles the airport and I get off and I just run in through past this minimal security with like shoes on and everything. And I run up to the gate and it's completely empty because the plane has already boarded. And I'm devastated. And I'm crying in the gate. And the door opens and the flight attendant comes out to like check something off on a box. And she says, "What's wrong, honey?" And I explained that all I needed was I needed somebody on that plane to take this ballot and get off in Albuquerque and look for the middle-aged couple holding up the giant sign that said ballot. Because how else were you gonna know it was my parents, right? And hand it to them, and then your job here is done. And she was like, "Well, I'm gonna have to go ask the pilot. Hang on." So she closes the door, and I wait. And she comes out, and she says, "The pilot would like to know who you voted for." Bill Clinton? She says, "Oh dear, it'll be a minute." And she goes back to talk to the pilot. And I wait, and she comes back, and she says, "The pilot said, wrong answer, but we'll take it for you anyway." And I was like, "Thank you." So I hand it to her, and she closes the door for the last time, and I go back out, and Kevin puts me in his car and drives me back to school. And about 5 hours later, my parents called to say that they had been successful. The flight attendant got off the plane, found them with their giant ballot sign, handed it to them, probably congratulated them on having an extremely strange child. And then they got in their car and drove the speed limit all the way to the nearest polling place, dropped it off, and that's my story of how I voted for the first time.